Vanguard Live. I am Precious Chukudi. We begin with the front pages of the papers, starting off with Vanguard. The main story says Subsidy, NLC, TUC suspend strike. The writer says the Labour and the federal government to meet again on June 19, 2023. Federal government, TUC, and NLC to establish joint committee to review the proposal for any wage increase or award and establish framework and timeline for implementation. Federal government, the TUC and NLC to review World Bank $800 million loan and implementation. We can see a photo story showing Labour federal government talks on subsidy. ATIKU versus TINUBU. I signed Nasarawa result under duress. Witness tells court. You can see that on page 9. On page 7, our attack survivors groan. Our families of victims relive sad experiences 1 year after. Counter-terrorism fight must be backed by intelligence. That's coming from Tinubu. Stories above. Nigeria trade balance records slight decline to 927 billion. You can read more on page 19. On page 29, Presidential Tribunal Obi tenders result of 8 more states in evidence. 10th National Assembly Court stops arrest of ex-governor Yari. On page 9, SPV SAGA court declines to order Atiku's arrest, fines Keyamo 10 million naira. Lastly, on the front page of Vanguard newspaper on sport, we have Real Madrid reserve number 9 shed for Kane. All right, let's take a look at the Guardian newspaper. The Guardian is leading with petrol subsidy removal. Labour undeterred by court order. TUC demands a 200,000 naira minimum wage. We can see on page 6 how proposed NLC strike may affect presidential election petition. Duress suspend strike for 21 days after parley with Tinubu. Universities and fledgling e-libraries. 1 year after, our Catholic Church member remembers the victim. IMF task Nigeria on revenue generation debt management. Stories above. Empty streets. Short businesses greet Mba's sit-at-home ban in Enugu. Nigeria's imports squeezed by cash scarcity falls by 25.8% year on year. All right, let's take a look at the Nation newspaper. The Nation is leading with a labor suspend strike plan, talks between government, TUC, NLC on palliatives implementation for June 19. There's a quote that says the labor centers and the federal government to review and establish the framework for completion of the rehabilitation of the nation's refinery. And stories above fracas as Ogu Tribunal begins sitting, proceeding not affected. You can see that on page 5. Don't hoard intelligence. Tinubu directs security agencies. Jimo Ibrahim rates the president's development plan high. Health workers call off strike conditionally. Last year on the front page of the Nation, we have Obi didn't win in Nasarawa. Article witness tells court. Labour Party tenders result from 8 more states. All right, let's take a look at the Punch newspaper. The Punch is leading with subsidy. NLC kicks as court stop strike. Police warn who longs. Rider says the labor force interim order. Bank, aviation workers join planned strike. IG orders police commissioners to prevent breakdown of law and order. We have a 1 billion naira petrol, other smuggled goods seized in May, and that's coming from customs. Unilag undergraduate shot dead over stolen phone on page 4. On page 7, Tinubu will turn economy around. That's come from Jimo Ibrahim. Federal government records 930 billion naira 2 month fiscal deficit, and that's coming from CBN. Stories above presidential election. Article witnesses alleged poll fraud. Foreign trade declines by 2.6 trillion naira over FX shortage, and that's coming from NBS. Lastly, on the front page of the Punch newspaper, Nigeria Air rep grills federal government officials today, and that's all we can take on the front pages of the papers. Join us after the break. We'll be right back. Welcome back, and of course, it's still today in the news on Vanguard Live. I am Precious Tripodi. Joining me to talk about some of the stories on the front pages of the papers this morning is Mr. Dayo Akintobi, publisher of Illupeju Today, Keja Today, and Lekki Today. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, sir.
Always a pleasure to be here, Precious. Good morning to all our viewers.
Yeah. All right, so let's delve into what we're talking about this morning, and of course, it's the Labour Congress and TUC. They have suspended their planned strike as they continue to further negotiate with the federal government. What are your thoughts? I mean, this was against the backdrop of the fuel subsidy removal and Labour just trying to intervene and speak on the grounds that Nigerians are not happy about what exactly is happening. What are your thoughts?
Well, the first thing that happened yesterday that turned the tide was that the National Industrial Court issued a ruling that restrained the labor unions from going on strike on Wednesday. They said they should maintain the status quo until the substantive case can be heard on June 19th. So once that court order came out, basically prohibiting them from going on strike, their hands were tied. Although initially they were flexing muscle and saying we are not respecting court orders and the strike goes on and all that. After they had time to think about it and recognize the fact that they will lose the authority they are fighting for if they go against a subsisting court order. Because first and foremost, you have to be seen as a law-abiding person or a law-abiding group. Once you are standing in contravention of a court order, you have no moral ground to make a claim that you are fighting for the masses. So that was the very first thing that turned the tide. Then I will also give credit to the president that throughout the day yesterday, he continued to talk to various interest groups within the unions. He spoke to the judicial workers. I believe he spoke to the medical workers. I'm not sure he actually spoke directly to NLC or TUC, but